McBride was filled with pride to become a lawyer in the Australian Army. David McBride was serving his country. Now some years before, he studied the law in Sydney, then Oxford University. But he knew from the start, deep in his heart, he was destined to be in the military. So he joined the British Army and gave his best for 6 years, and he rose to the rank of a major, a position deserved for the way that he served with exemplary behaviour. But his home was Australia, and he finally returned, and he worked in the law as a barrister. But he felt unfulfilled, for in his heart still he was longing to be a soldier. And David McBride was filled with pride to become a lawyer in the Australian Army. And David McBride swore an oath to abide by the morals and laws of his country. That's why he had to make a stand when in Afghanistan he discovered ill deeds and wrongdoings, from cover-ups in the ranks to civilian killings, and the accounts were disturbing and chilling. And as the evidence grew of the sins of a few, he knew that he must do his duty to report what he knew, because it was true. And so he informed his superiors diligently, but his concerns and his fears just fell on deaf ears. They tried to bury the guts and the gristles, but as a man of the law and all he stood for, he knew that he must blow the whistle. It's called, I'd love everybody to whistle in the little interlude. The whistle of honesty, of truth and morality. He knew that he must blow the whistle. Now his government so vile put him on trial for revealing the truth to his nation. And the message rang clear for all to hear when a judge sent David to prison. If you step out of line, you'll surely do time, and we'll make you not a hero, but a villain. While they gave the VC to a madman who's free, who killed Afghani civilians with glee. But in the midst of their hypocrisy, their lies and deceit, well, David was true to his station. Yes, he did the right thing. He served his country, not a king, and the truth will be his vindication. And David McBride had the truth on his side the day that he blew the whistle. Thank you. Yeah, so let's hope, as Eddie and the boys are saying, that he will have justice tomorrow in that court. And hopefully a lot of the people here will be there, or all of us.
Hello, how are y'all? Good to see some of those old faces there. Some of those old faces I've seen many, many years ago. And they're still here. We're getting someone out of jail. Everyone know who it is? Yes, David McBride. Today it's David McBride, tomorrow it could be you, or your granny, or your mother's granny. Which is, yeah, it's retrospective laws, we're all criminals, you know. We certainly are in New South Wales as of next week. All criminals, all going to jail, because we did something that we've forgotten about. That's what retrospective laws. Well, David's in jail, as we know, for something that he didn't do. He didn't commit a war crime. He didn't do anything really bad, did he? So here we're working together here this group of people that have freed illustrious brothers of ours, many of them, one in particular, Mr. Sanj, who we managed to rescue from the jaws of hell. And congratulations to you all. But we've still got a lot of work to do, and this is not the beginning. And some of you have been working for years with David, and some of you have been working for months and hours or minutes. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we're here, we're together, and together we're strong. So we're going to have a wonderful array of speakers tonight, so try and stay sober as much as you can. Keep the bar alive, though. You don't want to see the public and die of malnutrition. But try and stay on board, and as I say, we've got some great speakers tonight, and who'll take us to other worlds, better worlds, hopefully. So, but first of all, we've got Danny V, who's going to come and give us some music, and get to know each other, mingle around. You know, you never know who you sit next to. It might be your long lost cousin or your ex-wife. Yeah. In my case, it could be many ex-wives. You know.
This first song I'm going to do for you is the Syra when the Ukraine war thing was going on. It's called While I Was Waiting. While I was waiting for the war to begin, I sent my words of love to all of my kin. I prayed to each and every God that has been. There was no answer to my call. So high, the wild birds fly into every golden morning. So high, we yearn to fly. If we could be so free. We saw the fires where they camped in the hills. Knew they were coming and it gave us the chills. We burned the sacrifice and sang to the moon as it rose above the mountains. So high, the wild birds fly into every golden morning. So high, we yearn to fly. If we could be so free. They came with sticks and stones and arrows and spears, then guided missiles, the intention is clear. All of the clouds in the sky are unclean. Our home is dust and night is fallen. So high, the wild birds fly into every golden morning. So high, we yearn to fly. If we could be so free. I wanna smoke the missiles down to the fins, hold the poison in my lungs until we can win. Every enemy and God puts a hand to murder and to vanish all the children. So high, the wild birds fly into every golden morning. So high, we yearn to fly. If we could be so free.
unscripted tonight, but we just thought we'd do our little talk together to save each of us repeating the same thing in a different way. More efficient use of the time. But it's so good to be here. And I saw Dave yesterday and, you know, showed him the flyer and told him what's happening and who's likely to be here and about tomorrow. And he's very excited. And, you know, he said to say, you're all my family. And he loves you all very much, and he's been very grateful to receive letters and postcards regularly. Every day he gets 3 or 4 from all over Australia and the world.
Brereton found in his report that the generals didn't know about the war crimes, which was, you know, General Brereton found that the generals didn't know. But
which is very strange, because that principle you're talking about is the Yamashita principle. From, you know, all about Yamashita, you can tell that story.
Well,
yeah. And
look,
it's law. It's law. It's
look,
Australian law. It's international law.
Well, General Brereton doesn't seem to know much about what you're talking about either, because he found that the generals didn't know. Now, the test for the International Criminal Court is not whether they knew, it's whether they ought to have known. Yes. Now, blind Freddie would think they ought to have known. In fact, I believe they did know. And as Eddie's saying, this goes back to what they call the Yamashita principle, which came out of the post-Second World War trials of war criminals, like the Japanese equivalent of, obviously he wasn't German, he wasn't in Nuremberg. Yamashita was a general in the Pacific War who was responsible for numerous war crimes against Australian and British troops in Malaysia and Singapore, the 8th Australian Division, many of whom were murdered directly or by malnutrition and neglect in the infamous Changi prison camp. Yamashita was involved in that, and having covered himself in glory there, he went to the Philippines. He also was there. There was this thing called the Bataan Death March, where many Americans died, and Yamashita's defence was that he didn't know. And this is the principle Eddie's talking about, the Yamashita principle. They said, bad luck, mate, you ought to have known. You were a Lieutenant General, you're a senior officer, that's not good enough. Basically they didn't believe him, but they said, no, you ought to have known. And he was convicted.
David was, you know, he was taught this case in military law school. He taught this case to other legal officers, i.e. if someone above you is doing something wrong, you can't be a bystander. So he was following exactly what he was taught.
You're absolutely right. Under international law, they should be looking at what happened in Afghanistan. They should be saying, you guys ought to have known. But here's the little subtlety, as I say, like with the Royal Commission, this is where it gets muddy. The International Criminal Court will generally say, oh, well, we'll look at it if there hasn't been an inquiry by the country concerned. That's why they had the Brereton report. They're going to hold that, excuse my French, crock of shit up and say, oh, we've looked at that, nothing to see here. And let me tell you now, the International Criminal Court will accept it. The International Criminal Court is a joke.
So some cynical people think that the Brereton inquiry was set up in the way it was as an inquisitorial inquiry, because any of the evidence that was compelled in that inquiry cannot be used to do a criminal prosecution. So the Office of Special Investigator, which was set up as part of the Brereton inquiry, is set up to quarantine the evidence coming out of the Brereton inquiry. What was compelled, what wasn't, because you can only share certain evidence with the AFPs, evidence that wasn't compelled. So years and years down the track we are with the OSI, and we've had one arrest, one murder charge, Oliver Schultz, who's currently battling out contested committal in the local court, 12, 14 years after the alleged incident. One person.
The reason why everybody's here tonight is because we've all got a love and an admiration for David, and anyone who dares to speak out And that's why I love these gatherings. There's not a million people here, but everybody who's here is here because they love democracy and they love their freedom and they love their freedom of speech, and that shit's getting taken away from us very quickly, as Eddie said. So this one's all about community and being together and spreading the love. It's called Love Vibration. I woke up this morning, got out of my comfortable bed, as the sun was rising slowly, turning the pale blue sky to red. And I said to myself, oh, I'm a fortunate soul, yes I am. My heart is overflowing and the blood keeps flowing, and I know, well, I am blessed. Yeah, I am blessed. So much sadness in the world today, and only one thing's gonna take it away. Love is the answer to everything. Makes everybody happy, makes everybody sing. Makes everybody sing. It's not that complicated, we can instigate it, we can all create it, a love vibration. Yeah, 'cause it's give and receive, don't feed the greed now, you know we need a love vibration. And we all need community to make this a better world for you and me. You spread a little kindness, leave the past behind us, let the love set us free. Love set us free. It's not that complicated, we can instigate it, we can all create it, a love vibration. It's give and receive now, don't feed the greed, and you know we need a love vibration. Oh yes, and spread little kindness, leave the past behind us, you know it'll find us a love vibration. Thank you. Spread the love. All right, well I think we're going to have some speakers now. Thanks very much.
Just before we get the last two speakers on, it's Joe Lauria and John Shipton, and I'm sure you're all familiar with those two names. Two really lovely people who have got a lot to say. We're going to have a bit of a comedy relief now. We've got Jane, who's going to come up and make us all laugh. So you have to all commit yourself to laugh. It can become very violent. You know,
Probably laughing at me rather than
well, whatever. Just please laugh, okay?
Alrighty, so were any of you guys at the welcome home for Julian Assange when I did the Muppet Cup? Yeah, you remember that? Okay, so this is a little extension. We're going to have 3 contestants come on down, and it's called Muppet or Matron. Take a seat. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's all for show. It's all a bit of a joke. So the whole idea, guys, is I'm going to say a quote, and you guys need to name the person who said the quote. If, for example, let's pop this one out. If wars can be started by lies, peace can be started by truth. Who said this? Julian Assange. Yeah, there you go. All right. So That's how the game works. So basically, to amp this up a little bit, you're going to have beepers. And Kathy, you're wearing a chicken, so maybe you could... Are you going to do a whistle? All right, so if you've got the answer, I need you to be really clear. You can go, aye! Like, because I'm judge and jury here, guys. Do you want these points or not? Do you want the free t-shirt or not? There's a free t-shirt in this, isn't there?
Oh, you didn't say that.
There's could be a free t-shirt, maybe even a mug. Maybe even a mug full of beer, if you're lucky. Alrighty, here's a date. Oh, kind of date. A date, oh, sweet Jesus. Don't look at the back, guys. Alright, here we go. Quote number 1 is on disregard any public interest. Who said this? Yes, who said this and are they a Muppet or a Matron? And it's in regards to David's trial. Appointed. Well, you gotta go oil, do something cool. Hey! Andrew. Your answer is correct. Well done. Now, please stipulate, do you think he's a Muppet, like a puppet, or a matron, like a badass awesome?
I'm thinking he's an awesome puppet.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we have Justice Muppet, David Mossop. There is no aspect of duty that allows the accused to act in the public interest contrary to a lawful order. Mossop, boo on you. Trying to silence the whistleblower. What a number. There's so many descriptive words I could use right now, but for your sweet ears, I will restrain myself. All right, let me look. And for our second quote, are you okay? You ready? Number 2. Brrr, drum roll. It is a nuanced field. To the lady in the chicken t-shirt.
Andrew Bircher, KC.
Muppet or matron?
Oh, wow, can we stop recording?
Well, I have a feeling you'd be leaning into one of them and I'll just say it. It can be my response. Muppet! Okay, so we've got, it is a nuanced field. The very important relationship with Australia's foreign partners. It is indeed, isn't it, everybody? I do agree. However, he goes on to say the public interest in maintaining confidentiality outweighs the interest of open justice. Is this where we put the files in the safe? Is this where we shut down public interest? Is this where there's a closed court? Is this where we take the evidence away from the judge? Is this where we deny a man a rightful trial? Is he a man or a Muppet of a man? I leave that to you. Which one? Amaya. Andrew Berger. Oh no, that was me banging on a bit.
Oh, that might have been a foreign minister.
Yeah, so that was an extension of his quote. Okay. No, I've never met him either. We might meet him tomorrow. Will he be lingering at the court while we're lingering at the court? Okay, guys, we have quote number 3, and who's got a point so far? Oh, we've got 2 points here. Justine, where are you?
Call them Muppets.
All right, quote number 3. Brrr, drum roll, and here it is. I don't think we're working with the United States. I think we're working for the United States. Really? What is this? Do we know? Does any of the audience know?
Well, that's just about everybody knows that.
Oh.
That's a good point, but not everybody says it. And it depends what platform you're on to spread the word as well.
Turnbull.
Kathy, do you know? I mean... So I don't think we're working with with the United States. I think we're working for the United States. And this is in reference to David's case.
Richard Miles.
It's a matron.
All right, I'll give it to you guys. Well, the ladies in the front row here. Eddie, did you know that was you? I grabbed it, that's your quote. You said it in an interview with Kathy. You were like powering on, so there you go, honey. That's your quote. And you know, that's what everyone's, well, it's not far from everyone's mind, right? We're just another star on the flag. Like, it's just embarrassing.
You said it to me.
Is there a free t-shirt for that?
Oh, there might be something. I want to tell you the rest of the quote because Eddie was on a roll. Are you ready? Okay, so after that fabulous quote, that I don't think we're working with the United States, I think we're working for the United States. Well, we know we just paid tribute, right, to the Emperor. We just bent over with August. So then Eddie has gone on to mention Australia is bending over for Uncle Sam. Left, right and centre, and that's the concern. I love it. And that's one of the reasons why so much of the evidence was kept in a safe and kept from public. Because we know that it did touch on other districts, and it did touch on Australia entering into operations with the US without asking any questions. And Eddie says, and you can't do that. You gotta ask questions. Okay, so in everyone's mind, Muppet or Matron? Don't linger! Don't linger, guys! Matron! The boss bitch in the house that's leading the whole cause. So thank you, Eddie. This is a tribute to you and all the energy that you pour in. And thank you for coordinating with all the grassroots causes like us, because it just makes such a difference to be properly and thoroughly informed. So thank you, guys. Fabulous evening. A big round of applause for the contestants.
This is from a conversation I overheard down the back of a bus between two young people who got big plans in a country that doesn't really listen to them much. Lived in a latch on an alley gate tonight. He's got some money tonight, maybe the one. He's calling Patty under her window with a kiss and a touch on his hand. This is love on a working boy's wages. This is love down at the end of the line. This is love on a working boy's wages. He don't dream about tomorrow. He just hold on to the crumbs and dust of now. She's told him, you're not my only one. But she thinks she might be hooked, cause she gives him such a rough time. She says, boy, you must really want me bad, cause you keep hanging round like a bad smell all the time, love. On a working girl's wages. This is love when you're down at the end of the line. This is love on a working girl's wages. She don't dream about tomorrow. She just hold on to the crumbs and just now. She's got this dream about heading west. And she says, you and me, babe, let's change the rules of our lives. And he whispers, Patty, I really love you, with a kiss and a touch of his hand, 'cause this is love. On working folks' wages. This is love, when you're down at the end of the night. This is love, on working folks' wages. We don't dream about tomorrow, we just hold on. We don't dream about tomorrow, we just hold on. We don't dream about tomorrow, we just hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, Joe, Lauria, where are you? Oh, here he is.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the international aspect of this case. We heard how if David won, could bring down the two-party system here. Well, it has international ramifications as well. But first, I just want to say about Consortium News, I think we're the only U.S. publication that has written a word about the David McBride case. I don't know if that's absolutely certain, but we certainly have covered it in great detail. I was in the courtroom during the trial period, and I'm going to be covering tomorrow the hearing as well, the appeal. So, and we're going to do as much coverage as. Why is that? Because on its own, it's an outrageous case, obviously, but it's part of a trend, and I'm going to explain 50 years in making. We're much worse off today than we were 50 years ago. I look around the room. Unfortunately, it looks like almost everybody in this room can remember 50 years ago, which doesn't bode very well for the future of activism when we see so many people at a certain age. But if you look at 50 years ago, what was the situation then? Vietnam War, anti-war protests. Many of us remember those days, and we're going to talk about maybe the most famous whistleblower of all, Daniel Ellsberg. We knew Daniel. He was on our board, the Consortium News board, a friend of ours. He, of course, leaked the Pentagon Papers, which he worked on for the Rand Corporation. He first gave it to Senator Mike Gravel, who was a friend of ours as well, who was also on our board. And Gravel read the Pentagon Papers into the Congressional Record, which is America's Hansard. And then Ellsberg gave it to the New York Times. It was published. The government shut it down. The Times went to the Supreme Court and won that case, that very important case. And that case was that the government has no right of prior restraint. They cannot stop publication in advance. They can't tell a newspaper, you can't publish this. However, after publication, they could arrest anyone they wanted to if it broke the Espionage Act. And that, of course, is what happened in Julian Assange's case. It was after publication. So the government can't stop you from publishing, but once you do, they can prosecute you for breaking the espionage law. Now, I want to illustrate just how far we've fallen in 50 years. When Julian Assange's extradition hearing was going on in London, we were there in the courtroom one day, we watched the rest of it online, and there was testimony from the case in Spain of this security company in Spanish that were spying on his privileged communications with his lawyers and with his doctors inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And we heard of these incredible abuses. I wrote to Daniel Ellsberg and I told him what had just come out. And he said, that's it, he's going to be released. Why? Because Ellsberg was let off when prosecutorial misconduct was revealed in his case. They tried to bribe the judge with the FBI directorship. And they, of course, went into Daniel Ellsberg's psychiatrist office and stole files there to try to dig up dirt on him. Once that became known, the case was over. He was free. That's how Daniel Ellsberg avoided going to jail. for leaking the Pentagon Papers, which infuriated Nixon and Kissinger. And we know this from the tapes. He was free because of the misconduct. So when Ellsberg heard that they were going to try to kidnap or kill Julian Assange, that they listened in and recorded his conversations with his lawyers, the government that was prosecuting him, that he had to walk free. Well, he didn't. He didn't walk free. That's the difference between 50 years ago and today. And when you also consider this, there were two major massacres of U.S. in these 50 years. The first was My Lai in Vietnam. 50 years or so later were the Collateral murders in Baghdad. So one in Vietnam, in My Lai, this village, and in Baghdad. What happened in the My Lai case? Consider this. In My Lai, the whistleblower was listened to by the US Congress and the Department of Justice. They actually investigated. 50 years later, in the Collateral murder, the whistleblower, Chelsea Manning, was put in jail. Put in jail for revealing potential war crime. 50 years ago, they listened, they prosecuted, and in fact, one soldier actually was imprisoned. That's in the My Lai case. In the Baghdad murders, the Collateral murder, no one has been prosecuted on the side of the military. The third person in this story is the journalist. In My Lai, it was Seymour Hersh. Seymour Hersh won a Pulitzer Prize for reporting that story. He got a full-time job at the New York Times out of it. The journalist in the Collateral murder went to prison, to a maximum security facility in London. This is where we are today. And we're in a context now, at least I could say we look like they were making a pretense of seeking justice in those days. And look how far we've come today. Look how far we have come today. Julian was freed only because the US realized they were going to lose the case, based on the fact that they couldn't give protection on the First Amendment issue. The Department of Justice could not give an assurance to the Home Secretary in Britain. They were going to lose this case, so they let him go. And we hope, of course, tomorrow that David McBride can be let go tomorrow. He's going to try as well. But we are living in this time now of David McBride. We're living in a time of Annette Latouf, of Mary Kostakidis, of this suspicious anti-Semitism explosion that's gone around this country, that has led to a law that could imprison someone for making someone feel unsafe because of speech. This would not have been possible 50 years ago. I'm just asking. I don't really know, but it seems to me that we had more freedom to speak out against the genocide, against the war in Vietnam. People were not criminalized. Look at the students in Columbia University and other universities in the United States. Riot police arrested them, took them off campus. Many of them are not allowed to complete their education. Donald Trump wants to kick out of the country any foreign student who has protested the genocide on American university campus. This is the time that we're living in now, a time when Julian Assange, essentially, by the way, in his plea, he pleaded that I broke the law, but the law was wrong. That's essentially what he said. And what did that mean? Yes, technically, the Espionage Act, as it's written, says no one, even a journalist, can possess without authorization or disseminate without authorization defense or classified information. Certainly Julian Assange possessed classified information. Certainly every national security reporter in the United States every day is handling classified information. They could prosecute if they want. As I said, the Espionage Act, the government cannot stop a newspaper from publishing before, but after publication, they can arrest you and prosecute you based on the way the Espionage Act is written right now. And that's what they did with Julian Assange, but the problem is the law is wrong, it's unconstitutional, because there is the First Amendment, which allows journalists to publish material. You can't steal it, but if it's given to you, even if it was stolen, you have a right to publish that. That is what the First Amendment is all about, and the Espionage Act now is in total conflict with that. It's an unconstitutional law, but it's still on the books, and that's what Julian could say, I did break that law, but I thought I was protected by the First Amendment. So he kept his integrity, And he had to please something, and he did. Technically, he broke that law. Julian has not put other journalists in danger. There's a misconception here. When you plead something, there is no legal precedent there. They can't put another journalist in jail saying, because Julian Assange agreed to that. No, that has to be a conviction in front of a jury. That never happened. Now, politically, that's a bad role, yes, but Julian, I think, has not compromised to put other journalists in the future in any jeopardy whatsoever by that. David's law, and of course, Eddie could speak to this, the Nuremberg principle is what has already been brought up here. Does he have a duty to the public? Does he have a duty, or only a duty to follow the orders? And this is the essence of the case here. It's exactly like Julian. The law is wrong, even if he broke it technically. So let's hope, if there's a victory in the David McBride case, it will have enormous repercussions, because we're living in a time right now of extraordinary repression in all of the Five Eyes countries. We not only have those university students being arrested for protesting the genocide, we've got a terrorism act in Britain where several people we know, who are also on our board, like Craig Murray, Richard Medhurst, who have been stopped at the border arriving in Britain and questioned and detained. Why? Because of what they've written, what they've said about Israel. Because they criticized them, they are under, for 24 hours, Medhurst was under arrest, and they've raided his house now in Austria. The British and the Austrian police to go after him and raid his house. We have a reporter, a writer for us, Scott Bitter, one of our writers. The FBI raided his house. This, I cannot believe 50 years ago would be as common as it's become right now. Back then, we might have tried to imagine, what would it have been like to have lived during the McCarthy era? I don't think we have to imagine that anymore. And I don't think it's paranoia to say it. I've resisted this for a long time, saying that that we're living in that same kind of time, and we are. We are. So when you look at the Terrorism Act in Britain, this repression here with this new hate law here in Australia, when you see what happened to Julian Assange, and of course what's happened to David McBride, these all are a package, in my view, of the Five Eyes countries, and they share with each other intelligence, and I believe also they are very worried, in particular, about the fact that the public now has means to express themselves that they did not have 50 years ago on social media and on independent media like Consortium News and so many others that have risen up. This is a whole new element here. The mainstream media, which is in league with the established order, is losing control of the story. People are getting their own voices. And they need to stop that if they want to preserve their own interests, their own privileges. And that's all it's about. Their lifestyle. They want to keep the lifestyle going and shut the rest of us up. And we won't let them if we can. So tomorrow, we're going to come out. We're going to have a rally for David. I'm going to be in the courtroom reporting on that. Let's hope there's some progress, because if there is, we will have enormous repercussions, as I'm saying, in all of the Five Eyes countries. There has to be a victory. There has to finally be victories. There's got to be a tipping point where we win and they lose. Thank you.
Very inspirational, isn't it? Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Yeah. He doesn't even know what AUKUS is. Trump, when he asked about AUKUS, he went, what the fuck's AUKUS, you know? We're all paranoid here. We're thinking like, where are we going to park these old subs, you know? A Kmart drone could track one. You know, it was like, 30 billion. Yeah, look, we are captives. We are captives, we are imprisoned, and David's probably the lucky one. He knows he's in prison. And who was it? It was Dostoevsky said the best way to imprison a people is to not let them know they're in prison. And I think that's where we are now. We're all in a terrible place. But we're still alive and kicking, and we've still got the power of speech. And we're going to have a few more songs here. And hopefully, John's been dragged away. He's had an important call. As I said, I don't know if it's a lotto or he's got another kid on the way or whatever. God knows. God knows what's going on with the man. But we're going to have some more great songs from this beautiful Welshman here.
Okay, this is a bit of a long song because I just wanted to write a song that told the whole story of what got Julian into hot water in the first place, which was that Collateral murder video in particular. I think the powers that be just came after him then. Going good? Okay, Collateral murder. About a journalist named Julian Assange who told the truth because he found the evidence. Oh yeah, and he had the proof of collateral murder committed by the US in Iraq, and the images were brutal. Oh yeah, the images were stark. There's an Apache chopper, oh, it's hovering in the sky over downtown Baghdad. 16 civilians are about to die. For little did they know what was about to go down, because they were just standing around talking, yeah, like we do when we're downtown. Oh, they were just standing around talking like we do when we're downtown. And then the guns started firing, taking them out one by one. You can hear the soldiers laughing and joking, oh, as they watch them run. And there were 2 Iraqi journalists reporting for Reuters at the scene. They were both carrying their cameras, not guns, you could easily see it on the screen. And the soldiers said they had weapons and looked like insurgents, but you can't see that on the screen. And the soldiers kept on firing, taking them out one by one. Oh yeah, they were laughing and joking, oh, as they watched them run. Then a man came along in a van with his 2 small children by his side, and he hadn't done anything wrong. Oh no, he had no reason to run and hide. He was only trying to help the wounded, but the soldiers sound like they're playing a game. They opened fire on the children and the man, and the bullets keep falling like rain. One says you shouldn't bring your kids to a war, and they laugh with no conscience or shame. And these are the things they don't want us to see. These are the images you won't see on TV. If you don't keep quiet, oh yeah, if you dare to speak, oh, then you'll end up like that good man named Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, and thrown into prison, falsely charged with espionage, while the real war criminals, oh yeah, well, they're still at large. Oh yeah, the real war criminals, oh, they're still at large. So if you value your freedom, or your freedom of speech, then well, you better be like that good man named Julian Assange from WikiLeaks, and stand up for justice, oh, and your human rights, by exposing the lies and the greed and the crimes they want hidden from our sight. Yeah, by exposing the lies and the greed and the crimes they want hidden from our sight. 'cause these are the things they don't want us to see. These are the images you won't see on TV. Because those criminals started a war. I had a packet of chips before, seriously. Throat. I've had a drink with my drink. I had a drink. That's really bad. I felt the chip coming up and it's like, it's going to hit that part of my throat. It's like the vocal cord there. It is. I sound like I just, oh, thank you, sir. Oh, I'm oh, that's the worst musical interruption I've had in a long time. At least it's not like that. No, it's not over. Because those criminals started a war. Those civilians didn't ask for. Because those criminals started a war for the oil and the spoils those civilians didn't ask for. Because those criminals started a war for the oil and the spoils that they should be tried for. Because those criminals started a war.
And what about this beautiful man here from Wales, huh? Now he's in New South Wales, so he's sort of like, he's moving up. He's moving up. He's in New South Wales, right?
I was born in South Wales, believe it.
He was born in South Wales, and now he's all new now. Just like spat out of the cocoon like that this morning he was. So we should have more Welsh people here. All right, we'll put John on.
Thank you, Gair. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I got dragged away. In France, the Assange group have put together a group of David McBride supporters. So I had to speak to them and fill them in on what's going to happen tomorrow. And they're hoping to get a live stream from us somehow tomorrow morning. It's pretty clear that this persecution of David McBride is political, not law. As a consequence of that, he'll be freed by political action, not legal action. The courts will comport themselves to the requirements of state interests. If it becomes within the state interests to assure that David McBride is free, that will happen. The courts will comport themselves in one way or another, the same way they did in the case of Julian Assange. In order to get to the government to do that, we have to make it appear and actual, appear that there is benefits to the government, to the state and the government, but putting this word state first. It's in their interests to act to free, that's so weak, that word, to utilise positively the insights into the structure of the Australian Defence Forces that while they were in Afghanistan, to utilise that to renew the Defence Forces under the circumstances that every Defence Force has learned after the conflagration in Ukraine. It's an opportunity to reform and renew the Defence Forces into the modern military environment learnt from the catastrophe that's happened in Ukraine. The second thing is that having seen that we wish to contribute to the stability of the state and the state interests in pursuing the freedom of David, we can move to the second portion. It is the government, whichever government is in, it is to their advantage to have stable government and also the stability of understanding that certain electorates are dependent upon the McBride supporters. So plan out, because the election's not far away, we plan out the 6 or 7 seats that are what they call cliffhangers, and vigorously put work into those seats. That's all. We don't cover the waterfront. We just analyse and select the pressure points. And those pressure points, as one of the speakers here earlier on tonight pointed out, that the likely structure of government is going to be independence and the two major parties shrink. Okay, that's my commentary. The next thing is to understand that worldwide there's a tide of conservatism. And whether you like conservatism or not is not of any interest in freeing David McBride and getting some sort of the reforms that I just mentioned. What we like is not our concern. What is necessary is our concern. So the upwelling tide of conservatism that's gathered forces right around the Western world is we utilise it and point out that David McBride is essentially a conservative military lawyer who wishes only to reform the structures and the filaments along which authority is carried in the army. That's what he wants. And that's what his essential contribution has been up to this date. And, you know, you will see that change horses a bit. Governor General Hurley facilitated Prime Minister Morrison having 6 secret portfolios that the ministers didn't know about that he was taking. Hurley facilitated that and did it in secret. You can understand from that General Hurley has a particular attitude to ensuring that the lines of authority within the Australian Defence Forces are maintained. That was his job. He did it in a way that we consider corrupt, or if you find that word over strong, he did it in a way that we, in our judgment, consider inadequate to the stature of a general and the stature and prestige of the Defence Forces. That's how we would have to say it. We can't go around saying that this person is corrupt. We can't, as they used to say, you can't call somebody a 4-letter word and expect them to give you a hand.
Doesn't pass the pub test.
No, it doesn't. So what is essential is that we say David McBride is concerned in his work, I'm going to call it work, not whistleblowing, David McBride is concerned in his work to remove the smear of Afghanistan from the Defence Forces and renew the prestige and firm up the lines of authority that are necessary in Defence Forces. These are what David McBride is what do you call that thing that they get? David McBride is the Oscar of that event. He gets the Oscar.
Logie.
Sorry?
Logie.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, you know that is his stature that we carry. We don't call him whistleblower. I've got to make all these things really clear. He contributes to the reform and the prestige and the lines of authority. That's what the essence of a military force is, its lines of authority. You can't say, sorry, I don't want to go over there and risk my life. You just can't do that if you're in the army. It's not possible. Presenting David as disruptive is, in my view, wrong. Presenting David as constructive is essential to his freedom and to his future. For no major of the army who has spent his entire life in one army or another wants to face a future where he has seen by his comrades as a disruptive force, a constructive force, reinforcing the lines of authority that are essential to hold a defence force together is what I would say. But just to ask a couple of points. The unbundling of corruption in the West that has bedeviled us for 40 years now is what Trump and his gang or his group seem to be attempting. They're disposing of the empire, rehabilitating the republic because they lost. They were defeated strategically in Ukraine. So that, you can't forget that. They lost. And the only reason why they are abandoning their empire is because they lost. They have to. They can't continue. So they review their circumstances, their TOEs, what they've got, and they conclude that we must get rid of this empire and rehabilitate the republic. Just a few examples of that.
Korea, Vietnam.
I mean, I'm sick, look, the empire, I'm sick of. They've just destroyed another country. They've just wrecked up Ukraine. The list is endless. It starts in South Korea and ends up in Ukraine. These are important things. But I just wanted to point out one thing, that it only happens because they have been defeated and understand that the distribution of largesse that they have used to maintain their empire, they can no longer afford. They haven't got the money anymore to give out. In Ireland, I have lots of friends in Ireland, relatives and so on. There are 35,000 NGOs. One NGO for every 400 souls. Those NGOs are the means and methods by which the largesse is distributed throughout Ireland in order to undermine the unity and constructiveness of the population of Ireland. Anyway, I've gone on enough. I didn't even mean to speak. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, John. That was wonderful. Anyone understand the word he said? I got 3 or 4 words out of it. Only joking. Love the man. Wonderful. Succinct. You know, we should get him in Parliament or in, you know, on Iraq or do something with him. Just saying a big thanks to the staff here, Dave, who owns the place or runs the place. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very, very much. Maybe next time we come here to free some other poor soul, maybe you'll get Guinness on tap or something a bit more palatable. The wine selection was, you know, a bit iffy as well, but Guinness will do. Thanks very much, and thanks to all the speakers. And don't worry, we're going to win this one. We're going to win every one. Yeah. Okay. Let's win it.
Thanks for the MC.